the boys and girls of Sigma Phi. Some will live, and some will die. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is Terror Train, starring the legendary Jamie Lee Curtis. And this is the Blu-ray release by Scream Factory here. Absolutely love that cover art there. Excellent release by Scream Factory. So if you guys ever pick this movie up, definitely get the Scream Factory version. It's great. So Terror Train was filmed in 1979 and released in 1980 and was directed by Roger Spottiswoode. So the film still has a little bit of that disco-era music in there because it was filmed at the tail end of the 70s. And it's kind of fun, much like we saw in Prom Night, which was also filmed in 1979. So the film stars Jamie Lee Curtis as Elena, Ben Johnson as Carney, the train conductor, David Copperfield. Believe it or not, David Copperfield is in this movie. The world-famous magician. What the hell is he doing in a slasher movie? But it's a lot of fun. And I think he does a pretty good job in the role, actually. It's not too far from the truth, but it is what it is. Also, Vanity is in the film, who you might know from films like Action Jackson. And Derek McKinnon plays Kenny. So at the beginning of the film, we meet this group of college students as part of this fraternity, Sigma Phi. So yeah, they're a young group of medical students getting ready to go into the big time, you know. And they're planning this huge fraternity hazing on this kid Kenny, who's like kind of a little bit geeky. He's very shy, you know, and reserved. And he really likes this girl Elena, who is played, of course, by the legendary Jamie Lee Curtis, the Scream Queen. But of course, he doesn't have the guts to go up and talk to her, so the guys kind of actually set him up with Elena for a little rendezvous at the college, up in the college dorm. So what happens is, Jamie Lee Curtis goes up into the room and waits for Kenny there. So Kenny walks in, he starts like stripping down, you know, because they're getting ready to get down to business. And what happens is she kind of is hiding behind the curtain and talking through the curtain saying, "Oh, that's okay. Don't be shy, Kenny. You can come over and kiss me." And Kenny sees her on the bed, so he goes up to her and he goes to kiss her. And then he finds out that that's not Elena he's kissing. It's actually a corpse. A dead woman's body who looks so fresh. It looks like she just died like 10 minutes ago. It's like, how'd they get this fresh of a specimen, these lowly medical students? I mean, come on. But yeah, Kenny goes nuts. He totally flips his lid and loses it. And I believe he has to be committed at that point. You know, he really loses his mind. And then the film begins, and we're starting a year later, and they're having a big New Year's Eve bash, and they're planning a big masquerade party on a train. So yeah, this film was basically meant to be Halloween on the train. Yeah, it was meant to capitalize on the success of Halloween, as so many films did in the early 1980s. This film is certainly no exception. This one actually has Jamie Lee Curtis in it. And she's playing kind of a similar type character to Laurie Strode, maybe a little more frisky, not quite as timid as Laurie was. We even see her drop an F-bomb in there at one point. I'm like, whoa, that's not Laurie Strode. But yeah, so it's a really cool setting, the train. It's a really cool atmosphere, the way the film is made and directed by Roger Spottiswoode. It's got some great cinematography, especially we see those great night scenes of the train passing by with the smoke coming out and it looks like fog and mist everywhere. It looks really cool. And it's a really cool idea for a slasher film to take place on a train where everyone's having a great time, having a big party. They're all wearing costumes. Some of them are like Halloween costumes. The one guy has a Groucho Marx mask on. One guy has a lizard costume on. One guy has an old, creepy old man costume who looks like a monk or something. And that's one of the really cool things about this movie is the killer takes on the costumes of different people who he kills throughout the film. Kills them and then puts on their costume. He goes and kills somebody else and puts that person's costume on. And they're really cool costumes, the really creepy-ass masks, especially the Groucho Marx one. I love it. It's so creepy and scary. You wouldn't think one of the Marx brothers would make for such a scary mask, but it is. It's really creepy. And this one right here is the old man costume, which was really creepy-ass too. Now, it's really not much of a secret as to who the killer is. I mean, we saw what happened at the beginning, but it may not be because they allude to several other people possibly being the killer throughout the movie as well. There's definitely some suspects other than the suspect we all think it is, you know? Even David Copperfield's character is kind of suspicious at one point, you know? And there's one guy who's jealous of David Copperfield's character because David Copperfield kind of tries to get with Elena a little bit. He definitely does some flirtation with Elena's character in the film. I think David Copperfield does a good job in this movie. I like his character, you know, even though he's kind of playing himself basically in a way. It's not too far from his real life. But yeah, I just think it's so funny that they got David Copperfield to be in this movie, in a slasher movie. But I think this is definitely one of the best early slasher movies. It has a really creepy tone to it, and it's got a really nice score, and the score is really unsettling. It's never over the top. It's never like so intense like the Halloween music or like the old movies like the Hammer films of the Night of the Living Dead. It's never overpowering. It's just kind of quiet and creepy. And yeah, big ups to the people who designed the costumes that the killer wears throughout the movie. As far as gore goes, there's really not a whole hell of a lot of blood, but there are some nice kill scenes in the film. Especially the guy in the lizard mask. It's funny. They're like getting ready to party, and he's going to smoke a joint with the dude in the Groucho Marx mask, who is the killer at that point. And as soon as he finds out who it is, the guy lifts up his mask, wearing the Groucho Marx mask, and the dude's like, "Oh my God, it's you!" And then he takes his head and smashes it through the mirror. I was like, that was awesome. There's also a really cool scene with a dude who was like a big jokester who was originally wearing the Groucho Marx outfit. You see him with a sword right through his body, you know, and he's like, oh, and everyone's like laughing. They just think it's, oh, he's playing another joke, but he's really got a sword through him. And that's how the killer originally is able to get on the train without being noticed, because he puts on Groucho Marx costume, and everyone thinks it's that guy, you know. The jokester dude. Always makes really bad jokes, by the way. Some of the jokes that this dude says do not hold up in 2019. No, they do not. Yeah, a lot of the humor in this film it's very dated. It doesn't hold up today. You're not going to have a lot of laughs in this movie. But what it does succeed at is being a horror film, being a very good slasher film. And of course, you got great performance by Jamie Lee Curtis once again in the lead role of Elena. She does a fantastic job. She's got quite the spunk, you know. She makes a great, great final girl. I mean, you know, it's no secret that we know who's going to be the final girl in the end. You know it's going to be Jamie Lee Curtis. And she does a fantastic job. And this is one of my favorite roles by Jamie Lee Curtis, I have to say. And this is one of my favorite early 80s slasher films, Terror Train. It's an absolute classic slasher film, and I love it. It's one of the creepiest. It's got some really unsettling atmosphere. It's very well directed, and you got a nice supporting cast too. Ben Johnson does a great job as the train conductor. And I love David Copperfield's character. I love Vanity's character, Mary. She's really cool. And everyone in the film does a solid job, and this is a really well-made slasher film from 1980, and it's very well directed by Roger Spottiswoode. So I highly recommend Terror Train. Definitely, guys, grab the Scream Factory Blu-ray release. It's excellent, and this is a really good slasher film, guys. You cannot miss this. If you love 80s slasher films, you cannot go wrong with Terror Train. And that's it, guys, for my review of Terror Train. I give it 2 devil horns up. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.